that can go a long way in a relationship and help prolong your relationship if you can get those down. What is up, y'all? This is the State of Progression podcast, where we will provide you nothing but great energy, pure authenticity, and progression in all aspects of life. What's
Yes,
good?
sir. Yes, sir.
What's good, baby? 4th podcast. We're supposed to drop them, but we had some technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's how it
happens, though.
goes.
So, today's topic, it's probably going to relate with, I want to say all of you guys, to be honest. Well, for all you people that have been in a relationship, we're going to be inputting our knowledge from what we've learned in the relationship world onto you guys.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Sounds gonna be a little scary.
Yeah, Dylan might get in trouble with this episode.
I know. I gotta watch myself. I gotta be good.
But anyways, so let's just start off by saying 50% of all relationships end in divorce.
That's a scary number too. 50%. That's such a drastic number too.
So basically, that means, say you date two women, you marry two
At the
people.
same time?
Yeah, you could.
Dating two women?
Polygamy, baby. Hey, for all you polygamy, all those people about polygamy,
Is that the term for that?
hit me up. Yeah,
Hit you up.
hit me up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm all about the what's single?
You're looking at the wrong dude, bro.
I forgot. It's like polygamy, I think.
Look at me, bro. Oh my god.
All right. Anyways, so Dylan, what relationship advice, being a married man almost, put the ring on it,
Hey.
what relationship advice would you give the watchers, the listeners back at home? What would you give them?
It's such a tough question. You know, this is such a, I guess, a diverse demographic of people. You know, there's so many different people, different lines of business. So I think really it's got all the relationship advice is going to be specific to the type of person that you are and what kind of work you do,
Mm-hmm.
especially whatever your goals be. Because if you're someone who's extremely goal-oriented,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be times where you put other things in front of that person. And you have to be able to communicate enough to where both of you guys are on the same page. So when that does occur, it's not necessarily as if she's not your first priority, but in this specific, day and time, this has to come first. So for me specifically, I think that's the number one key in building a long-lasting relationship is just really having a good level of communication in regards to what the priorities are.
So feeding off of what Dylan said about how communication is huge in a relationship, another thing that comes with that is understanding how your person likes to be loved. For example, there's 5 love languages out there. Words of affirmation, so basically complimenting a person like, oh, you're beautiful, oh, I love you, oh, you're so sweet. Gifts, presents, that's obvious. Acts of service, like, for example, doing the dishes, taking out the trash, things that your partner probably doesn't want to do, and you just do it for them, and it makes them feel loved. Quality time, that's pretty obvious, like just hanging out around the house and just chilling with each other and them like being right by your side. And the last one, physical touch, such as like holding your hands, hugging, kissing, anything affectionate really. So, and understanding your partner's love language is huge because that's how you make them feel loved. You can have a different love language than them, and a lot of times a person has a love language and they show their partner the love language they think is the right way, instead of understanding that maybe they're different and they like, for example, physical touch, and you like acts of service. So you doing act of service for them may not make them feel loved, and that can go a long way in a relationship and help prolong your relationship if you can get those down.
Yeah, so in identifying what those person's love languages are, or, whatever it is that they personally enjoy the most, it just makes it so much easier in navigating like a more like honestly just like a healthier relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Because once you can establish, I hate to say expectations, but like really just expectations to what they're looking for and what they want to see day in, day out. There's no questioning what they're looking for. So when your girl's upset about something, or your man, whatever it be, it's a lot easier to identify what the problem is versus not having a clue because you're just doing what you think is the right idea, So I think that's so huge. If you can identify that within the person, that it just makes it so much healthier. It's such a healthier relationship.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just communicating and like laying it out there, like telling somebody what you like instead of letting them guess and making them guess can, like we've been saying, make the relationship very healthy. Or the opposite, it could be very unhealthy if you keep showing your partner the way you think they want to be loved and they don't really want to be loved that way, and it can just make things go downhill.
So I got to ask you, how do you think, this is going to be a little bit off subject, but like, do you think your spouse should be like your best friend? Are you that type of person? Because I'm not. Like, I don't think that your spouse should always be like the one, like in your right hand corner. Like, yeah, you should always talk to them and communicate, but like, I don't like expect her to like, consistently, I don't even know how to word this how I want to. Like literally the only thing I could really to say is like that BFF status. Like that to me is not realistic. I think that job is for someone else, like, to have the expectations to have, like, if you're, emotional mess that day, or, you had a bad day or whatever it be, to expect that person to continuously be the person to convert those emotions to something stronger. If you think that person's responsible for your emotions, like that's only going to lead to frustration for yourself, not even for her. You're going to be the one getting frustrated.
Yeah. To be completely honest with you, I think she can be your best friend, but you also have to have like another best friend on top of her. I feel like me, for example, I love when my girl is my best friend because I can tell her everything, but that's what's kind of like expected in like a relationship. You're supposed to be able to tell your girl or your dude everything you want, but like I feel like that's how best friends act. They tell each other everything. So I feel like you have to have a best friend on top of that.
But doesn't that go hand in hand with this solid communication though? Like if you're communicating properly within your relationship, that shouldn't be the void of her being the best friend, right?
Well, what I think is like at the end of the day, if you can choose one person, it's obviously going to be that person. She's your she's obviously the best friend out of everybody. That's how I look at it. And like I've been saying, like having another best friend to talk about this specific, like your relationship, like just to give you advice or like get something off your chest, or go to them when you can't go to her about your guys' problems.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't know if this is gender specific. I mean, I just don't know. But like when you look at like girls and their friends and their relationships with their friends, like that's who they go to vent about their relationship.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have that person to go vent to, that could overflow into the relationship itself, and that can cause, more of a toxic relationship.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I guess that's more of along the lines of what I was asking you than just like, oh, like, of course I think you should be close with your chick or your dude or whatever it be. You know what I mean? Does that make sense though?
Yeah. So basically you just kind of have like an outlet for them to vent. Yeah. And I feel like women, they like to vent more. Yeah. Especially like guys, I feel like they
not
for sure,
all women. Yeah, not all women.
Yeah, for sure, not all women, but not all guys either. But a majority of the guys I know, they hold things in, and I feel like that could be unhealthy too. Like just holding things in. So just being able to have that outlet, I guess, is super important in your relationship besides your partner. You know?
Right.
So maybe like a therapist would help. And people always hate on therapy, but to be honest, I feel like therapy
does wonders.
Yeah, it does wonders for sure.
How about this? I got to ask you this then. How would you say, what is the proper way to communicate something if you're upset about a specific situation? Is that something that should be talked later on in the evening, or do you think that's something that should be immediately addressed?
To be honest, I think once the emotions settle, and once you're not angry, pissed off, mad, sad. Once you've given yourself some space to think about the situation and have allowed your partner to give yourself or themselves the space and understanding of what's going on, then you guys communicate. It could some people.
What about like when you're in like the heat of a a situation, argument, or whatever it be? Does that have to be something that's communicated? Pre-argument that like, hey, if we're disagreeing on something, let's always give it a minute because we don't want to take this conversation somewhere where it shouldn't be just 100%. Be based off of emotion, state of mind, all that kind of stuff.
100%.
So really, that's something that has to be talked about prior to any sort of disagreement coming up.
Yeah, I just feel like you should like being able to understand that if things get heated, not taking things too far, because that's when things go bad and you say something you don't mean, or you do some stupid thing you didn't want to do, and understanding in that situation when you're pissed off and leaving, I feel like is like the best situation, and just giving yourself space to properly communicate and let your partner know how they made you feel is so huge, because that's how you feel on the inside. And if you don't communicate with that, you're just going to hold it in and you're going to resent that person, and then you're going to start acting different, and then that's when things just start to peel apart.
That's what I was about to just go to right now, because I think a lot of times when you're in that situation, whether it be like an argument or disagreement, whatever it is, and then say you take that time to cool down and you go back to communicate, and obviously you're going to be honest with her or him about whatever it is, and to communicate that. I think a lot of times though too, this can go one or the other ways. People will act like they feel or just communicate how they feel.
Exactly.
Like it's rarely do you show your intentions. So like when someone's mad, they're like, oh no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm fine. It's like, I know you're not fine.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's communicate. Let's work through it. But when someone says they're fine and then they act like they're pissed off and stuff like that, that to me is like just that'll ruin a relationship. So if you can't properly communicate how you feel,
childish. At the end of the day, it's childish. That's what it's considered. Because
that to me is huge. That's huge. Like I can't stand that. If you're pissed off and you want to act like you're pissed off, don't tell me you're fine.
Yes, exactly.
I understand it. Like you need time, cool down. We'll talk about it later. But don't tell me you're fine when you're walking around and you're like you're pissed off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's huge to me.
100%. Yeah, just being able to understand and like grow as a human, you have to be able to communicate well and be able to let your partner know that you're pissed in that moment and you need space. And there's going to be people that want to fix it in that moment. That's how I personally am. I like fixing it right then and there. But then there's other people that they actually need that space, and giving them, respecting their boundaries and things like that can really go a long way for any relationship and keep you guys healthy, really.
Right. And also, while we're on this topic, if there's a reoccurring problem and if it's not being addressed, maybe it's 1, 2, 3 times, it happens. If it doesn't get addressed properly and the problem continues to happen, that isn't the relationship's fault. That's not a disconnection between the two of you. The only thing that's disconnected is you guys properly communicating around the problem.
Yeah.
If you can't, if there is a small imperfection in your relationship and you let that fail your relationship, it just shows how poor of the communication was in that relationship. For sure. So if there's a recurring problem, make sure you actually address the situation. Don't butterfly it, like I said earlier about acting like you're mad, but you're actually or acting like you're mad and telling you're fine. Like that's the same thing. If you just butter a situation every time it occurs, it's going to reoccur again.
100%.
So solve the problem, try to figure out what's the best solution moving forward, and agree on something or disagree, agree to disagree, that whole thing, whatnot.
And what a lot of people need to understand is there's always going to be problems within a relationship, whether you think it's going to be like, whether getting into it, you think it's going to be the perfect relationship or not, there's always going to be problems. People are always going to have their own problems, and that's why there's always going to be problems. Nobody's perfect. We've stated that tons of times. Nobody is perfect, and you have to just understand when you get in a relationship, you're committing yourself to that person, and you're committing yourself and understanding that they may have insecurities, they may have trust issues, they may have anger issues, things like that. And once you understand that from somebody, and you commit yourself to them, that's you saying, okay, I can deal with these problems. And when these problems come up in a relationship, it's not time to run, you know. It's like time to like understand, like, babe, I know you're upset. I know you can't, it's hard for you to control this, but let's try to control it the best we can.
Right. Even to, you know, to speak on that specifically, it's like, what I personally believe in is like, I'm not responsible for your happiness.
Exactly.
Like, you have to be happy on your own for the relationship to be happy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you're not happy, I guess I already probably said this a minute ago, you know, but if you're not happy, you can't always depend on the other person to make you happy. I guess this relates to the whole best friend thing.
Yeah.
And having that outlet to rejoice those emotions, because I think you can look to friends like that if you're having a bad day.
For sure.
But if you continuously look at a relationship like that, if you're having a bad day continuously at work, and every time you go home to your spouse,
You bring it with you.
You bring it with you. But you can't expect that person to continuously, day in, day out, be the one
Putting up with it.
not necessarily put up with it, but like to reverse those emotions and recreate your mood.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's their responsibility.
100%. Yeah, that kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk about next is when you find a partner, you basically are coming together with that person. So what I mean by this is each person, like me, for example, let's say I find a girl. I have my own interests, my own routines, my own goals, my own dreams. And the partner, the girl I find, she has her own interests, all that stuff as well. And what a relationship, in my opinion, is supposed to be about is those two people come together and they share their interests, their goals, and all that. And they basically, they share it. And
so not necessarily like sharing the same interests, but
Yeah.
sharing each other's goals. So there's
Exactly.
not a shared goal, but it's understanding what one wants to do and what the other wants to do. And when they have to do that thing or you have to do your thing, it's understood.
respecting it.
It's understood.
Respecting
correct,
it. And sometimes even like seeing that, say I'm very passionate about something. My girl sees that and she's like, oh, you're passionate about it. I'm gonna look into it just to show you that I care about you and I respect you and I respect all the things you're doing. And you don't have to do that specifically, but I'm saying that just shows like the respect and love you can have and share together. But you should never be that person should never be your world, for example, because as soon as they become your world, like, you're basically losing all respect for yourself and you're making her your priority instead of putting yourself first, kind of, and like understanding what you need in this life as well to be happy.
Not only that too, but even like when we started this, you said that 50% of relationships fail.
Yeah.
So if you
exactly.
continuously put your partner ahead of you,
Exactly.
your level of accomplishment is going to be next to nothing when that relationship ends, if it does,
100%.
and hopefully it doesn't, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
if that were to be the situation, and that relationship ends and all you've done for the last 2 years is pour everything that you have into that person
Yeah, you're gonna end
and
up
not focus for a second with what you wanted to do, like you said, you're going to end up lost.
Yeah.
And not only lost, but you're going to feel depressed, anxiety,
Yeah.
and, a waste of 2 years.
Yeah.
But if you can continuously work at your goals, let her work or him work at his goals, and keep moving forward, if the relationship were to end, there's no time lost.
Exactly.
And that's super huge.
Yeah, it's very huge. I've actually I've had this happen to me multiple times in my life, and I made that person my world. And at the end of the day, I was hurt, I was lost, and my vision at the beginning of the relationship was not the same at all. At the end, like, my vision was so, like, I knew what I wanted, and at the end, I was like, I totally forgot what I wanted.
What you're doing in the first place.
Yeah, and that just leads to don't make them your world, and they're for sure, you can't blame somebody else for your own emotions, because at the end of the day, it's your choice if you want to be with them or not. Say they annoy you, say they piss you off in that day or multiple days over and over, and like you can't put up with it anymore. At that point, you need to have a sit down with yourself. Like, it's not his fault that he's annoying me. That's who he is. Maybe he's not my person,
But I think that too, like, if you're sitting there and you're getting aggravated, time and time again, see, this is something I could talk about too. not in my own specific thing, but I've heard of, a good friend of my relationship kind of worked like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got this friend, and within their relationship, he works like 50 hours a week, right? So he's always busy. He's always working 10, 12-hour days every day. And his chick, she doesn't work.